Nora Callahan found the cigar box on a Tuesday, in a hallway closet that smelled like camphor and old paper, 3 days after Mrs. Ansell passed and 2 hours before the estate liquidators arrived to haul away 80 years of someone else's life. Nora had been her hospice aide for 14 months. She was allowed to keep one thing. She almost chose a ceramic bird instead. Inside the box, index cards, their edges gone soft as fabric, filled with the slanted handwriting of a man named Walter Ansell, dead 11 years, who had spent 4 decades quietly managing money for families whose names sat on hospital wings and library entrances. He never wrote a book. He wrote cards. 5 of them changed the next 16 years of Nora's life. She was 26 that year, a 10th grade biology teacher outside Dayton, Ohio, making $52,000, with $9,000 in savings that never seemed to grow, no matter which budgeting app promised it would. If you're finding this useful so far, I'm John. Subscribe to this channel for more educational finance documentaries that help you build wealth and make smarter money decisions. Card 1 read, "A hive that gets robbed of its honey every week never survives the winter." Nora didn't understand it at first. She was investing, technically. She had a 401k through the school district and a robo-advisor app she checked more than she checked her own bank balance. But whenever something broke, the car, a dental bill, a friend's wedding across 3 states, she pulled from the same account that was supposed to be building her future. Walter's card was suggesting something stranger. Separate the honey from the hive entirely. Decide in writing what money would never be touched, not for emergencies, not for opportunities, not even when the market dropped and her stomach dropped with it. She moved $6,000 into a brokerage account, split it across a couple of low-cost index funds, and made a rule. That account did not exist for spending. It existed for compounding, which is really just patience wearing a mathematical disguise. She didn't need to pick individual stocks or time anything. A low-cost index fund simply meant owning a small slice of hundreds of companies at once, so no single bad quarter could sink her, and an ETF worked the same way, just traded a little differently. None of it required a finance degree. It required not touching it. The first few months of not checking the account felt like willpower. By month 5, it felt like relief. This is the part most personal finance content skips. The strategy isn't complicated. The discipline is the entire product. Card 2. Nobody's opinion of your car has ever paid your rent. Nora had a colleague, an assistant coach named Greg, who leased a truck he couldn't quite afford and talked about the payment the way other people talked about the weather, constantly with a strange pride buried in the complaint. Nora recognized herself in it. She'd bought a stand mixer she used twice because a coworker's kitchen looked complete and hers didn't. She'd said yes to a bachelorette trip she couldn't afford because saying no felt like admitting something. Her budgeting app had a category for all of it, neatly labeled, as if a label made the spending rational. Walter's card wasn't asking her to live smaller. It was asking her to notice the difference between spending that lasts and spending that performs. A good pair of boots resoled for a decade versus a trend she'd forget by spring. That's a mindset shift, not a math problem, and once she saw it, she couldn't unsee it. She kept driving her 10-year-old Corolla. She stopped narrating her restraint to anyone, and she noticed, slowly, that the people who took her seriously in meetings weren't reacting to anything she owned. They were reacting to the fact that she didn't seem to need anything from them. By 29, Nora had started tutoring on weekends. First for 1 family, then 3, all through word of mouth, no website, no ads. Card 3 explained why that mattered more than the money. Your name is the only asset that compounds without your permission or destroys itself without your consent. She turned down a paid opportunity writing essays for a college prep company because their business model quietly encouraged plagiarism, and the money wasn't worth what it would cost her if anyone ever found out she'd been part of it. 6 months later, a school counselor recommended her, unprompted, for a curriculum consulting contract with a neighboring district. The fee was $4,000 for 11 weeks of part-time work, more than double what she'd ever charged for tutoring. She didn't talk herself out of the number. She held it. They paid it. Word of mouth is its own kind of passive income, if you're patient enough to let it compound the same way a brokerage account does. Card 4. Plant the tree you won't be sitting under. At 33, with her tutoring and consulting income now regularly outpacing her teaching salary, Nora made a decision that felt almost boring. She bought a small duplex in a town 20 minutes outside the city everyone else was moving into. a place with reliable tenants and unglamorous numbers. It wasn't the kind of purchase you'd post about. It was the kind you'd still be holding at 55. She began thinking in 20-year horizons instead of 20-month ones, which changed what she noticed in the news, in the market, in her own impulses. She kept contributing to her retirement account the entire time, treating the duplex and the index funds as two different rooms in the same house rather than a bet on either one. The kind of diversification that has nothing flashy about it and works precisely because it's boring. When a downturn eventually came, she wasn't scrambling, because her money had already been positioned for a season she couldn't predict, but knew would eventually arrive. Long-term investing only feels risky to people who are watching too closely. Card 5. The shortest one. No one needs to know the number. They only need to know you're still standing. By 42, Nora's original brokerage account, untouched for 16 years, had grown into 6 figures on its own, separate from the duplex, separate from her retirement accounts, separate from the consulting business that now ran without her full attention 4 days a week. 3 people knew her actual net worth. Her accountant was one of them. She still wore a watch she'd bought for $80. Nobody could look at her life and guess what it contained, and that more than any return she'd ever earned felt like the actual inheritance Walter Ansell had left behind. The index cards are back in a cigar box now, in a drawer in Nora's own house. The one with the duplex 2 towns over, and the retirement account she doesn't check more than twice a year. She still doesn't know most of what Walter Ansell actually managed, or for whom. She only knows what he wrote down for no one in particular, on cards he probably assumed would end up in a donation bin. Financial freedom, it turns out, was never a number on a screen. It was a set of decisions repeated so many times they stopped feeling like decisions at all. Somewhere tonight, someone is standing in a closet that smells like camphor, holding a box of somebody else's old handwriting, deciding whether it's worth keeping. It usually is. The lesson was never really about the money. It was about deciding once what you would never spend, and then having the discipline to forget it exists.